Hey guys, today we're going to be going over the distributive property. This should be a shorter, much shorter video just because it's more of an introduction to the lesson for tomorrow. If you'll look at your notes, you'll notice it's only one-sided. Okay. The distributive property is something that should have been taught in seventh grade, either pre-algebra or math, but I don't know if there was a lesson. Oh my gosh, I can't even speak. A lesson incorporating the distributive property. So that's why I feel like it is important to go over just in case you did not learn it to begin with. Okay. Let me see. So first, let's go back over. What is this? Why is this in there? Okay, got rid of that. Um, First, let's go back over what we just learned yesterday. Yesterday or the day before, whatever, whenever you learned the first lesson. Um, we learned how to combine like terms. We learned that terms must have two things in common before you can add or subtract them. Okay. And remember, combining means to add or subtract. So like terms must have what? The same variable. And it also must have the same exponent. Remember, get used to that terminology because when I get back, that's what you're going to hear. You're not going to hear letters. You're not going to hear power, nothing like that. Okay. And when we talk about the exponent, we're talking about that little bitty number that is in the upper right-hand corner of a variable. Okay. What does not have to be the same? What does not have to be the same? Well, let's look at an expression that I like to use. 2x plus 3x. Now, these are like terms. What do you notice is different about them? The number in front. What do we call a number in front of a variable if it is attached to a variable? If it is attached to a letter, it's called a coefficient. So the coefficient does not have to be the same in order for us to be able to add them. 2x plus 3x. Remember, combining like terms, we're not solving equations, so there's no equal sign. But 2x plus 3x gives us 5x. Okay. What else are like terms? What else were we able to add? We were able to add numbers that are by themselves, which are called constants. Okay. Numbers without letters. Now, distributive property is all about multiplying. Yesterday we were focusing on adding and subtracting. Today we're going to be focusing on multiplication. So it's very, very important that we go over the ways to represent multiplication and our multiplication rules. A lot of students, once we switch over from adding and subtracting, I know at this age it is very hard to switch your brain back and forth from adding and subtracting over to multiplication rules because they're both very different rules. Okay, but that's also why we have the calculator to help us, right? Anyway, what are the two ways to represent multiplication algebraically? What are the two different ways that we show multiplication? We talked about this a lot last year. We could show it using a dot, or we can show using parentheses. So both of those represent 2 times 3. It just looks different. If you were to type in 2 parentheses, if you're looking for the parentheses on the calculator are right above the 8 and 9. If you were just to type in 2 parentheses 3, it'll automatically multiply. Parentheses are multiplication, okay? You don't have to hit the times button over here on the side. Now, why do we not use that an x to represent multiplication? Because it can be confused for a variable. Okay. Now, when our multiplication rules, when we're multiplying numbers with the same signs, meaning a positive times a positive, or a negative times a negative, the answer will always come out positive. If it's the same, it'll come out positive. Now, if you're multiplying different signs, positive times a negative, or negative times a positive, it'll come out negative. Okay, very, very important That is something that you're going to have to double check over and over, especially in today's lesson. Okay. So what the distributed, think about the word distribute. If I were to distribute your papers, what am I doing? I'm handing out each person their assignment or their paper, or it can be their notes, it can be whatever, it can be their tests. It doesn't matter. Distribute means to hand out individually, everybody. So when we are distributing a number, we have to make sure to distribute it to each term, okay? So the distributive property allows us to multiply each, very, very important keyword, each term outside of the parentheses by the number inside the parentheses. And when I say by the number, we're talking about by each number inside of the parentheses. We're just going to scratch that out. We're going to write each. By each number inside of the parentheses. So when using the distributive property, a good strategy is to draw arrows coming from the outside term towards each term inside. The arrows represent the terms that you are multiplying. And that's just to help us kind of, in a way, skip a step, okay? Underline that word each, very, very important. It helps us kind of skip a step because you don't want to be sitting here or sitting there writing 5 times 3x and then in a separate line, 5 times -7, okay? So strategy, always circle the number that's outside of the parentheses, and that's the number that we're going to multiply by the first term. So I'm just draw an arrow. 5 times 3x is, when we multiply 5 times 3, we get 15, but this term has an x, so make sure you reattach the x to it, okay? Now, the second set, this is the number that we're going to be multiplying both times. We're going to be distributing that number 5 each time. So I'm going to take that 5. Now I'm going to multiply it by a what? -7. Don't forget to double check that sign in front. So 5 times -7. Let's say I'm not very good with my negatives, so I'm going to multiply. I'm going to use my calculator. Gives me -35. So we get 15x minus 35. And that's my answer. It is. The distributive property is that simple. I am a big fan of breaking down our lessons because this is a lesson that was supposed to be combined with something else, but I feel like I need you to get comfortable once again with your multiplication rules. Focus on actually distributing correctly before we move on, okay? So let's try number 1. We only got 6 practice problems, so it should go fairly quick. Number 1. We have 2 times 4x plus 5, okay? Well, we're distributing the 2, and we're multiplying first 2 times 4x. 2 times 4 is 8, meaning 8x's. And same thing, we take that 2 and multiply it by the 5. 2 times 5 is 10. Multiply, 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 times, times. Because I do always, because some students see that plus sign right there. What they want to do is they want to multiply these, but then add the second 2. No, you're multiplying each time. Okay, don't get caught up on, or don't get confused by that plus sign right there. Okay, erase that before y'all get confused. Number 2, what number are we distributing? What number are we multiplying this time? -5. Okay, first we multiply -5 times 3. Just because there's some negatives in there, I'm going to go ahead and type it into my calculator, -15x. All right. Same thing, I'm going to circle it back again, and this time I'm going to multiply it by -5 times -6. -5 times -6. And we get a positive 30. Because that 30 is positive, you connect it with the plus sign. There's your answer. Simple enough, I hope. Let's try number 3. This one's kind of tricky. What number are we multiplying this time? What number do we have outside of the parentheses? What do we fill in when there is no number physically present? We fill it in with a number 1. So we're going to multiply both terms by a -1. So -1 times 2x. -1 times 2, just in case. -2x. Then -1 times -10. 2 negatives make a positive. 1 times 10 is 10. But once again, I would prefer if you typed it in the calculator each time so you don't make silly mistakes. Number 4. We're multiplying the -4 times x. Uh-oh. I'm multiplying -4 times a letter. There's no number. Wrong. The number in front of x is a 1. So -4 times 1, -4x. Then we take the same 4, multiply it by what? -7. Don't forget to check for that. Negative times a negative makes a positive. 4 times 7 is 28. Very good. Next. Number 5. Starting off, we are distributing the number 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times what? 1x is positive 3x. And last example. 5 times 4, 20. 5 times what? -1. 5 times -1 is -5x. And that is all there is to today's lesson. So get your practice done. Make sure you finish your assignment from your previous assignment. Get all that turned in. And have a good one. Where is there?